a number of years ago, it was presented to us at Active International to take the naming rights of the new cardiovascular surgical center, and I was very interested in it since I chair the company's philanthropic program, but I had no mechanism by which to do it, and I had really no way to energize or convince our CEO or president that it would be a good thing to do. In fact, my first trial closed with the heads of my company when I said we ought to take the naming rights because they're the new heart center, and they both said at the same time, well, why in the world would we need to do that? And so I had to go back and rephrase the question, which I rephrased about 75 times, and around 70 when we added "it saves lives" to that, and all 350 or most of the 350 employees of our company live within the footprint of Good Samaritan Hospital, they began to listen and they began to accept the idea. They started really enjoying it, and it took several months in order to start to reach a consensus among the power brokers at my company that this would be a terrific idea. So the corporate concept became, let's support cardiac, but then how do we go about doing that? Well, we boldly said, well, that's no problem. We'll use part of our money. We'll go into the community and do fundraising events. We'll do a lot of things all over, and we'll just get this amount of money. But it was a considerable amount of money, and after a couple of years, when a lot of the events that we were doing in support of the Cardiovascular Institute began to shrink because of the economy, we found that our ability to help to fund that facility was growing smaller and smaller and was causing us to go deeper and deeper out of pocket, which is not a great thing to do in my position. We were talking before this about going back in the middle of the year and say, let's do a new budget. Well, I was doing a new budget daily or weekly, and it was a situation that was not terrific for the hospital, for us, or for anybody else. And enter the gentleman on my right, and Stacy actually, who put a concept that had not been used too much in our area, which was to fund philanthropy through things like life insurance and key man policies and so on. And I had not thought of that. I had stepped out on a limb by funding philanthropy through third party or off to the side fundraising events, but it never occurred to me that philanthropy could be funded in these different and unique ways. So again, the process began of finding, can we really step out of the normal path and create the philanthropic models that we want to create, that our companies, and I know a lot of people are here today sitting as individuals, but from the corporate side, I can assure you we all want to be philanthropic. We just are running out of the opportunity, and budgets dry up, and we really can't do it. So this concept of plan giving and philanthropy that does not come out of checkbooks specifically, but comes out of instruments that the learned guys on this panel know about and you'll hear about, is something that is resonating all over the place. Every time I mention to another corporate person who is a part of any board or runs any organization that we can fund philanthropy by instruments such as this, people begin to take notice. Now, it's our job to be able to close them and to convince them, but we have become loud voices in the idea that you don't have to write checks, and well, sooner or later you do, but you don't have to write the check you think you need to write. And as we go further in this capital campaign that we're looking at, and the numbers get larger and larger and larger, the ability to fund it in traditional ways gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And the unique ways, which basically we started out of a need to think out of the box to reach what we were trying to do, can be the way to do it. Active considers itself a spokesperson in that regard now, and from a corporate point of view, it works. It is effective, and allows us to put way more money into programs than we would otherwise be able to do. So,
Joe, I think that was an excellent introduction. And Michael?
Oh, it's a great segue. My involvement with Good Sam was about, and Amanda and I joke about it all the time because it feels like it was yesterday, but it literally was, I guess, a year and a half ago.
Feels like it was 10 years ago.
Yeah. But we were presented with this scenario that Active had and its relationship with the hospital, and through Stacy's background in another location, brought up the idea of utilizing life insurance. Now, most people, when you say life insurance, believe if I have a policy on me, who's it going to benefit? Somebody else. But for that benefit to happen, I can't be here anymore. And that's the traditional way of thinking about life insurance, especially what we call the term products. But when we talk about permanent life insurance, there are living benefits. And so what we were able to do is to harness the power of a life insurance policy. We listened long and hard to what the goals were from both Active's perspective and the hospital's perspective. And we were able to fill a gap utilizing a life insurance policy, but the insured here, who's the CEO of Active, doesn't need to leave us in order to fulfill this. We used a policy and designed a policy that has cash value. That cash value is just as good, if not better, than many assets that are out there. In fact, it is cash that you don't need to get permission from a bank or a credit committee or an underwriter to access. And so in designing this policy, without boring you with all the life insurance technical aspects of it, we were able to match up the contribution that Active wanted to make. We were able to meet the ultimate goal, but most importantly, we now have accessible cash that if the hospital so chooses a year from now, or even today, there's meaningful cash sitting there today. But in 2 years from now, if they say, well, there's a new x-ray machine, or there's another Da Vinci they need to get, well, I took Da Vinci public in a past life, so I know it's more than a couple $100,000. But be it as it may, the hospital has the ability to get that cash, and they don't need to ask anybody for it. From a technical standpoint, from a legal standpoint, we structure in such a way that the hospital is both the owner and the beneficiary of that policy, which means they can do with it what they wish. And ultimately, when Mr. Elkin is no longer going to be here, because he won't be forever, none of us will be, there will be a windfall that comes from the death benefit. So I think that the key thing to take away from what I do with clients is that instrument that people think has such limited uses creates such flexibility and so much freedom that people don't even realize.